we're going to finish up 8.3 with these second video, and we're practicing the quadratic formula some more. So what you need to recognize is that instead of being x squared, well, obviously it's x to the 2/3 power, but what you can imagine for a second is that if x to the 2/3 power was equal to, I don't know, like y squared. And the reason why I'm just choosing a different variable, so then it makes sense that x to the 1/3 power is equal to y to the first, if you wanted to write it down. So then you can see that this is of the form y squared minus 5y plus 6 equals 0. And then when you use the quadratic formula, it would be y equals, negative b plus or minus yada yada yada. Except this time it's going to be x to the 1/3 power. And if this is confusing, please write down your question and bring it to me. That way I can answer it. So then from here you can go through the quadratic formula. X equals negative b, so positive 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. And what you'll notice there is that you get 25 minus 24, which is 1. The square root of 1 is still 1, so we have 5 plus 1, so 6 divided by 2. Which is 3. But then 5 minus 1 would be 4 divided by 2, which is 2. But remember, it was x to the 1/3 power equals that. So though that is not your final answer, you have to solve it by cubing both sides. So the correct answer would be 3 cubed would be 27, and then 2 cubed would be 8. Maybe I should show one more step. I guess I just assume that you know to undo the 1/3 power is cubing. Because remember, a power to a power, you multiply the exponents, and 1/3 times 3 would cancel. Same thing on this one. So that's how I get that answer. And please don't forget, you can check your work. If you were to plug in 27 or 8 in for both of those x's, we have the time. 8 to the 2/3 power. It was minus, it was 5, wasn't it? 5 times 8 to the 1/3 power. And then minus plus 6. I'm glad I checked that out. And I know I'm right because I got 0. Do the same thing, just grab that equation and change those 8's to be 27's. 27 there. 27 here. There we go. So those are both correct. Don't be afraid to check your work. As we move on, we have a few word problems as well. So you might want to pause the video and read the problem and make sure that you fully understand what's going on. This is the same exercise that's in the book. It's on page 571 if you want to try it on your own and work through it. Otherwise, I'm about to explain it. So the experienced and the apprentice word processor can do a Word document in 6 hours. So basically, working together, they can complete the entire project in 6 hours. So what that means is that their rate in 1 hour is they can get 1/6 of it done if they're working together. Now, the experienced word processor can create the document 2 hours faster. So it's up to you if you want to let the apprentice, and I'm trying to follow the way the book does it, the apprentice can do this job in X hours, whereas the experienced can do the problem in 2 hours faster, so X minus 2. So what's the rate that they can work? Well, the apprentice, I should put some lines in here to separate them, is in 1 hour, the apprentice can get 1x, 1 over x, whereas the experienced can do 1 over x minus 2. So the whole premise, and I know the way I have this is kind of backwards, is when they work together, this is the rate that they do. They can complete a job in. So what that means is we can set up an equation. So the apprentice's work completion per hour, the experienced work completion per hour is equal to 1/6 of a job done in 1 hour. And once we have this set up, I would say it's pretty straightforward. Of the other problems, it's just all of the word problems are pretty difficult to set up. And that's the best way that I'm going to explain this. So from here, just make sure you get the same denominator. I would multiply this by 6 and x minus 2, which means you'd have to multiply the numerator by 6 and x minus 2. This middle one has the x minus 2, so I have to multiply by the x and the 6, this denominator and this denominator, so you have to multiply the numerator by that. And then this last one, I need to multiply by x and x minus 2 to get the same denominators. Got to multiply the numerator. And now the denominators are canceled out. And from here you can distribute 6x minus 12, distributing here, plus 6x is equal to, distributing here, x squared minus 2x. So there's your quadratic. So I would put a 0 on this side, which is how I would do it. 6x plus 6x is 12x. When I subtract that over, it would be negative 14x. And add 12 over. And now we're ready for the quadratic formula, where x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And really what's going to happen is we're going to have a positive and a negative answer. And we only care about the... check that. I just checked the answer key. They're both going to be positive answers, but only one answer actually makes sense. So let me show you with the calculator. So make a fraction, 14 plus square root of 14 squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So this is the answer I want. Let me explain why the other answer doesn't make any sense. Change that plus to a minus. And what this answer is saying is that one person can complete a job by him or herself in 0.917 hours. Well, that doesn't make any sense. If both of them working together take 6 hours, how could one person finish a job in less than 6 hours? So that's why this answer doesn't make any sense. So the answer we want is 13.083. And because I called X the apprentice, the experienced worker can work 2 hours faster. So this would be the apprentice. The experienced would be 2 hours faster, so could complete a job in 11.083 hours. And there you have it. So feel free to pause the video. Feel free to go back to page 571, 572, if you want to see how the book explains it. But pretty much the same thing that I did. And then the last problem, the last word problem before your assignment is driving. We have two towns that are 400 miles apart. Salesperson travels from Fargo to Beach one day at a certain speed, returns to Fargo the next day, and drives 10 miles per hour faster. So it really set up in a similar way. And sometimes I think it's helpful to recognize that this formula, distance equals rate times time, because no matter how you do the problem, the distance is the same for either of them. Well, they also give you the distance as 400. I guess that's helpful as well. So what we know is, well, we don't know the first rate, so I'll call x, that first rate, times, well, we don't know the time, so I'll just call that t, whereas the second rate is 10 miles an hour faster, so I'll call that x plus 10. I'll call this t1 and call this times t2. So as we look at the two values then, what we can establish is that the first time would be, if I'm just solving for t1, so I'm dividing x over, and same thing with this one, t2 would equal 400 divided by x plus 10. And we know this fact right here, that the total time for the two of these two things, needs to add to equal that. So 400 divided by x plus 400 divided by x plus 10. And it might be worth your while to change 14 2/3, because that's a mixed number, and we're not big fans of that, as an improper fraction. So if you multiply 3 by 14, you get 42 plus 2, it's 44/3. And again, if you're stuck anywhere, please let me know. And then from here, we can get the same denominators, multiplying everything. Let's change colors. Multiply this by 3 and x plus 10. So you got to multiply the top by 3 and x plus 10. This one needs to be multiplied by the 3 and the x. 3 and the x. And then this one needs to be multiplied by x and x plus 10 to get the same denominators. And if the denominators are the same, that means the numerators would have to be the same. So 4 times 3 is 1200x. Just make sure you distribute. Plus 3 times 4 is 12, and we have 3 zeros now. 3 times 4 would be 1200x again. And then this one, 44x squared plus 440. And there's your quadratic that we can set equal to 0. And if you wanted to, you could actually simplify this. I think all these numbers are divisible by at least 4, if not something bigger. Otherwise, you can use your, what do we have? 2400x to subtract over. And then 440 minus 12,000. Negative 11,560. And at this point, I would trust that you would use a calculator. And do the quadratic formula. That x would equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'll double 44 and you get 88. So as I've already looked through the problem, one answer is negative. That doesn't make any sense. The other answer comes out to be 50, which means that she was traveling 50 miles an hour to get to the town, and then the next day going 10 miles an hour faster. I think it's miles per hour. It might be kilometers per hour. But anyway, 10 miles an hour faster the other way would be 60. And I'm trusting the answer key on that, so double check that I'm right, and then you should be ready to work through your homework, which is right here.